directions. They can pick up a mid. They can pick up a support to match the Nautilus. Leona, in particular, is often matched up into it as a good matchup.
Yeah, there you go. Cleared with the Viego out of left field, though, with Lee Sin, with Xin Zhao, Jarvan up and available. Going to the other jungler that you and I were talking about in 12.2, being our top 4 in the LPL. Oh, season 11. Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
those are the two, right? The two from the Shadow Isles who are a complete pain. Now, the big thing here is that Jayce is open and available. I've talked about this for the past week constantly, how teams will ban Jayce, pick Gwen. It being here, you just had xiaolaohu kind of get stomped by Wayward. And that was in a matchup you chose. You are now going into a matchup which favors the Jayce, which top esports are choosing. So this could just be another disaster, but we will see how it goes. For now, we go in the second rotation. Top esports, they can look to ban away supports here if you are concerned about the Leona, or perhaps something more defensive. On the other side, for FPX, I feel like you look at the jungle pool. Lee Sin, open and available. Xin Zhao, open and available. Even the Jarvan potentially as well. If you ban away those, it would definitely thin the pool substantially.
Kind of trying to think as well, you know, what we saw last game, which is things like the Veigar coming through as well. We've already got the Jayce, so for Knight, a confident mid lane pick without knowing what he's going up against. Orcs, there's potential there, but mid counter does sound more flexible when you're talking about the jungle priority. So makes sense when FPX ban away the Lee Sin. That felt like it was going to be big between these two. You mentioned the Xin Zhao as well, up against Viego. Feels like they've got an easy couple of bans here for FPX ahead.
Yeah, and top esports, they know. You look at the composition of FPX, you have this great dive potential for the Viego and the Gwen, but you need engage, right? Neither of those function as primary engage. So Leona, set, targeted. FPX, they've taken away the Lee Sin. I feel like Jarvan or Xin Zhao probably the more likely one that you see as a ban, but they could go in another direction. Maybe they don't want to deal with the Veigar. They're concerned that top esports could bring it out again. They do just go for the Xin Zhao. So I expect jungle here. Volibear is something that we've seen a fair bit, right? As one of these early pressure junglers, great at diving in the side lanes. So definitely an option in this situation. And that leaves Knight with that final pick. It will undoubtedly be an AP mid laner, but that's very common. We don't see too many AD mids.
Yep.
But it means he can really be flexible here. Now, what is Hung going to do? Because I feel like they need engage. You know, Rel is definitely an option that provides that. Rakan does as well, but is maybe, you know, a little bit weaker in the laning phase. Although obviously a lot more safe, even if he doesn't have as much pressure.
And for Hung, you know, on the Rakan, it's going to be up to him. Do you need more engage, though? Like, a lot of the time, Rakan's talked about a supplementary engage on top of something else. Gori would be a delivery system that could work pretty well with the Rakan.
Yeah, it would help with the dive, right? And this composition is reset city if they do lock that in. Already, right? You get a kill, Jinx gets excited, Viego can steal a soul. If it's the Vex as well, obviously she gets another ult charge. Yep. So it's very much dive forwards, and they are going to commit to that. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun, right? It's just diving forwards, and basically, whether it's the Jayce or the Aphelios or whatever Knight picks, you see a target, you charge at them, you kill a target. We'll see what top esports wants to offer here. Honestly, I feel like just taking something that's going to have a decent matchup into the Vex is going to be important. But honestly, defensive picks that have self-heal, things like, I mean, Syndra, yeah. I was thinking the Veigar could even work here, but Syndra, the big thing about this is the scout of the week. And actually, a lot of players, a lot of support pro players hate playing Rakan into Syndra because you try and drive in, scout of the week hits you, and you just get absolutely nuked. You're probably just going to die off the back of that.
True, very good point. Very good interaction to look out for. For top esports talks, it feels like we have Jayce, we have Syndra. We have lanes that want to snowball and dominate the laning phase by all odds. So is this just top esports win lane to win game?
Yeah, it literally feels like that, right? They have the strong mid jungle where you can lean that to the side lanes with the Volibear. If they get prio mid, they can easily slam down on that Gwen in the side lane. Jayce is a winning match up top. The Nautilus Aphelios should win out against the Rakan and the Jinx. But if we do see FPX get this into the later stages of the game, their comp functions extremely well in team fights. And particularly as soon as you hit that level 6 point, Rakan, Vex, Viego all get some massive spikes. So it's kind of weathering the storm for them. And
you talked about the reset potential as well. So any of those quick picks at the start of the fight catch top esports rotating, and the fight continues and lingers out. FPX are going to be taking control here in game 2, but we'll have to see. I gave some wrong information before. If you're wondering about those percentages, the solo queue, not win rate, I said before, it's how the matchup goes. So over in solo queue, it's pretty much the setup of, well, Syndra 51.8% of the time, you know, wins out against the Vex. 48% of the time the Vex wins out against the Syndra. If that makes sense. Hopefully that information shared can give you a bit of a heads up.
So it's like the matchup win rate, right?
There you go. That would have been about 10 seconds of my time saved. Thank you all.
Well, people love hearing you talk, so I guess we benefited from that regardless.
Agree to disagree. Some, maybe some. Game 2, hopefully, you know, they can get through this because I'm looking for all three. And as FPX invade the top side, a cheeky little ward from Mark that'll see the entrance spotted. We'll welcome you to Summer's Rift either way. The invade stops for now. Gori with electrocute in lane is worth mentioning. Airy on Knight as well, Orcs. So lane-focused runes coming out of both mids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it makes sense for Knight, right? You want to apply that early pressure. You can frequently proc the Airy every time you land a Q, pretty much. So very powerful. And that pressure is so important because, you know, Volibear is going to have more early pressure, especially you can lead it into the side lanes than the Viego. Viego is kind of conditional of waiting for that level 6 where he really spikes. But we do see xiaolaohu just going for a bit of an aggressive invade defense of vision. And that is important, right? You want to be tracking where Tian is in this situation. Now, we do see this top lane matchup. xiaolaohu's opted for the Ghost. So if the lane ends up being overextended, he can chase down Wayward. But the reason why this matchup is so frustrating is obviously most melee champions into the Jayce is frustrating. But one of the things with Gwen that she struggles with is sticking to a target, right? That's why she often takes the Ghost, is because you can just chase them down. And the problem with the Jayce is he will trade with you, you'll dash on him, he'll jump in a hammer form, knock you away, proc phase rush, and he's just completely out of there. So
yeah. Like this,
why the matchup is so difficult.
You know, we're going to look at Wayward and Orcs right on screen. Never before has a color caster been given so much room in such a short amount of time. So nicely said. You know, Wayward getting the trade here once again on top of xiaolaohu. Look at how well it's going. Even towards mid. We talked about top esports setting up for their lanes and building up a snowball advantage in this early game. Knight with the area has had really good trades with Gori. Gori down to his last pot versus Knight on 2. And, you know, Gori not known for his laning phase, but still Knight definitely known for his.
Absolutely. And I think this is where the main pressure is going to come on the top side. You can see Tian has pathed up towards there. Jinx very good at pushing the wave level 1, and particularly because Aphelios doesn't actually have an ability there, a bit weaker. But once they get a couple of levels, level 3, I feel as well for the Nautilus is a strong one. That's where you'll see the matchup turn a bit more in top esports favor. Strong all-in pressure, because if they do connect like a dredge line onto Hung, if he gets caught out, you can lay in a CC, chunk him out pretty heavily.
I'm going to look forward to where Tian makes his first impression, though, because he's already cleared away 20 CS worth of minions. Once again, Wayward, look at this, dude. This series against xiaolaohu, it's an absolute top diff so far.
Yeah, and xiaolaohu has to recall and get a TP off because, I mean, this was great, right? You know that Tian's pathing up towards the top side. Wayward actually takes a tower hit because the health of the Gwen is actually more important because he's about to get dove, right? If he dies here, it's an absolute disaster.
Oh, it will be. Not immune for now. Sky Splitter comes down. Tian tanking up the turret. Wayward getting the final blow. As the turret comes through, they haven't done it. Tian walks back in. You know what? It's not a fateful blow. Instead, FPX, say howdy.
Absolute massive mistake from top esports. I'm going to look mid for Knight.
Good scout of the week. You talked about that interaction with Hung. It denies him, sends him backwards. He won't die, but Knight will survive.
That play top, right? What actually happened is Tian, the red buff burn was still on xiaolaohu, so we'll get the replay. So the problem is xiaolaohu hits level 3. This makes such a big difference. That first minion dying, the shroud, yes, it doesn't stop the damage because they're inside it, but it gives them a ton of resist. And then watch, right? Red buff burn, Wayward drops aggro. The burn makes Tian take tower aggro. They were going to wait for the tower to reset, and as a result, xiaolaohu not only did he get that kill, he collects that massive wave and has double buffs. He just turned a disastrous situation into a pretty good one.
Into an even mark now against Wayward after Wayward set up that wave. Tian coming through, dying, puts him behind in the jungle as well, Orc. So this is like a domino effect. Clid now up in CS, and for FPX, up 500 gold at the 4-minute mark.
And, you know, it may not seem like a major thing, but going back to our win cons, top esports had a win lane, win game composition, right? Yep. You know, it's definitely not over now by any means. There's still a lot of room for them to bring it back, but any setbacks like these make a big difference. Clid has just been farming up already. Got about 2, going up to 3 camp lead right now with Tian. And look at Tian. He's not farming. He's going for more of these gank plays. If this one fails again, it's pretty much doomed. And you can see Clid waiting in the wings in the fog of war.
He wants his double buffs back, but yeah, if Clid comes through, that's going to be massive. Knight's still without ulti, but he's spotted roaming up. 3 versus 2 until Gori can get there. Tian spotted, waiting, thinking. They're going to back away from the dive, and Clid stopping away. The play means for Tian, he goes back empty-handed again.
Yeah, and a lot of time invested. In fairness, in the situation, Clid also invested. Oh my god, he might... That's the part of the matchup, right? Kind of freaked me out the amount of damage, but yeah, you knock him away, you have the phase rush, you get out, but still, you can see how scary this can be if the Gwen is fed, if the Gwen can get on top of you. And now, it's kind of reversed, right? We saw Clid covering that dive. He is now pushing up to threaten Wayward. Complete flip from what we saw in that game 1. And Wayward has to be really careful. Tian and Knight are moving up to potentially seek out this Viego.
But didn't back
Actually,
away.
it's not Knight. Gori's got the first move.
And he's level 6, remember, as well, with the Shadow Surge. They jump on him. He flashes over the wall, but he can re-engage with the ulti. Scatterweight comes through, and there is the Shadow Surge onto Tian. Comes flying through, and Gori sets it up. Even gets the kill. FPX, by one singular mistake from Top Esports, are well and truly in control.
All comes shattering down, and now 2 deaths for Tian. It's such a good game on the Lee Sin. Really fumbling now. xiaolaohu with a kill in the pocket. Gori with a kill in pocket. Clid ahead in the jungle as well. It is all going right, and it will only get worse. Top Esports, I think, Tian, you just need to farm up the jungle, hit level 6, get a big dive in, and then that's a way you can sort of find some momentum in this game, but things are going bad right now.
I want to see how that dive comes through. Yeah, the level 6 mark is a good point. For Tian, you know, on that bear, maybe it changes things and gives Wayward some way back into the lane, no pun intended. But xiaolaohu now has needlework. And if they try and dive him once again, remember, that sustain, that W, armor, and MR is going to change so much. So 1k gold lead just about here, Orcs. And is there any other way apart from top? Like, surely you don't just keep doubling down after what happened.
Yeah, I think it's already rough. I think bot would be more rewarding, right? Because you get 2 kills instead of 1, but... Oh,
it's exhausted. It's flash. JackeyLove getting a bit of experience here, and Clid wants to hand it to him. Another kill goes down, this time to the jungler. FPX 3-0.
Just as I'm saying, top is a great option, right? Rakan isn't the best in dives because he's so squishy compared to like a Leona. And if they manage to dive him, they'll be able to get 2 kills, but instantly Clid shows a bot, puts things in favor of FPX there as well. And it's not massive, it's not a huge advantage, but at 8 minutes, every lane on the map for FPX has an advantage, and this is needed, right? We talked about this before. Both teams at 4-4, 9th and 10th in the league. This matchup can be instrumental in securing playoff spots. And with FPX losing that game 1 so heavily, bear in mind, they didn't get a single kill in that game 1. They've already got 3 at 8 minutes in this one.
3 times the kills for the last game. Well, that's incredible. Actually, technically, infinite amount is they got 0 as Wayward.
Infinitely more kills.
Yes.
Wow.
There we go.
That's a lot.
Well, because technically if it's 0, 3 times 0 is 0, right? So it's not
True.
3 times 0 because you can never get, so it's infinitely more. Is that correct?
A lot.
If anyone
Yeah,
likes
it's
maths. Okay, good.
That's
good.
correct. Correct.
Glad. I kind of hate maths, so the fact that I got something right is kind of pleasant. So with
Feels
the
like Top Esports hating
go
math
for
at
it.
the moment because 800 gold down, and you know some of these trades haven't been so even. Now they are looking towards this Herald. You do see that Top Esports have first mover advantage, but FPX level 6 available for Clid. If FPX come in here and they get a single kill, the resets would be devastating. Vex and Viego so threatening there, but I think 4 members strong for Top Esports. They don't have priority top. They are just going to give this one over.
They've already done enough in this game so far, taking it nice and easy when they have to. It feels like, you know, with the conditions you set up from FPX, talking about team fights later on, we have a Viego, Gwen, Vex, Jinx, everyone sits nicely the later this game goes on. Feels like for FPX, already sitting on their lead, they don't need to, you know, get off their laurels. 10 CS lead up in the top side. Jungle now losing a little bit here in CS, but remember the kill went over, so Clid's still in a great position. Vex in the mid lane, Gori, even in CS against the Syndra, who wanted to bully out this lane. So FPX, we're just going to watch them and see how they move into this mid game, because laning phase is still going on, and I'm curious if Tian can actually make his move matter in one of these lanes.
See if you can make something happen. And honestly, the one downside is that FPX kind of just watched the Herald get picked up. They didn't do anything off it. Maybe they've been able to pick up some plates bot lane or a dragon off the back of it would have been nice. We do still see Lwx get a plate on the bot side, and it does feel like Top Esports haven't really been able to find a window in this bot lane, right? They haven't been really able to challenge with the Nautilus. Kind of just watched FPX farm up, and now dragon will be started. Again, not interested in contesting this one. It kind of comes down to who has control of the area first. We'll try and catch out Hung, but he's going to easily be able to dip away.
Yeah, easy dragon take here and again for the team like FPX. The first dragon being a great start here in game number 2. We pan back up to the top side of the map, and xiaolaohu just doing Gwen things. Wayward with a health advantage, but remember again that xiaolaohu's going to be fine with his extra little piece of sustain and the pot ticking as well. Onto Wayward. Trades happen like that, and I'm actually looking at Knight moving up here. Immune for the time being. Wayward jumps in, flashes back for the hammer form, and away from xiaolaohu, who needs one more tick to get the next near to work. Onto Wayward, he takes him down. Knight will trade, but it takes an unleashed power still. xiaolaohu has to be happy with that.
Yeah, and we were talking about this matchup, how the Jayce is so good at trading disengaging. Wayward wasn't interested in that. He wanted to set up the kill, and as a result, committed really heavily, used his phase rush, used his flash to basically get in range, and then wasn't able to do much to get out. I mean, he still had the phase rush to run for a little bit, but yeah, Knight does manage to get the kill, but giving one over to the Gwen definitely does not feel good.
And what a pain Hung is in the interim as well. Stopping JackeyLove's back while cleared. Actually wants to try and dive him. That backstop from Hung could be so big. As JackeyLove gets caught out, Hung over the wall. He flashed for that and given to Lwx with a beautiful rocket. Hung once again continues to impress us here in the LPL Spring Split.
Really nicely done, and such a huge play, the fact they interrupt the reset. And now, despite the fact that they don't have the Herald in pocket, they will start to get an advantage in terms of these plates. Jinx and Viego both very good at shredding through a tower, especially as Viego has that sheen he can constantly proc. We do have to be a bit cautious for xiaolaohu though. Looks like Top Esports making a move top. You need to get out of here.
All right, well, you can press W here. Depth charge is going to come down though, and as W hits through, and that's a counter.
What now play?
sick interactive gameplay experience up at the top side, while bot's just going to be a turret take, and Top Esports going to be way behind on the trade.
I respect the fact Mark even pressed ultimate. It's kind of just like, you know, maybe his hands off his keyboard. Maybe he forgets to press W. It's still funny.
Oh, God. I still think it's stupid that a mechanic like that exists. That's simply a W press, but maybe not now is the time or place to Top Esports trade topside turret. At least getting some gold back in, but they're down. They're the team that is down gold at the time being. Herald's going to get another charge. It's 4 members concrete their efforts up top, but FPX ready to match with Gori off in the wing. They're threatened, and that Herald isn't going to get its second charge.
Yeah, they don't want to hang around. FPX threatening that they might end up coming over and contesting. You do see the resets there. And again, it's so scary if one person's overextended. If a long-range ult comes in from the Vex, the resets start happening, you will just get ace. So Top Esports, happy to trade a tower 1-for-1, but it's still 2,500 gold down. Still a definite advantage for FPX in a game where Top Esports wanted to start things off strong. And, you know, we sort of compare. Obviously, Jayce does scale exceptionally well, but Gwen, monstrous in the late game. Volibear does fall off a fair bit as the game goes on, whereas Viego is constantly a threat. I feel like Vex has the stronger late game than the Syndra just for the long range. I feel like there's multiple aspects where FPX are really confident going the later stages. And, you know, Top Esports aren't out of it yet, but it just feels like even though they're finding these opportunities, they are still sort of trading from behind. You can see the goal differences on our screen, right? Across the board, we see leads for the side of FPX, every single member. The most significant is that 80 carry roll.
Well, TP's coming through, maybe not. For Top Esports, for FPX. Lead has to get out of there. As he ults through, he might have to flash as well, but he's burnt it. He's over. He's out now. FPX almost caught out as the teleport was the exchange for xiaolaohu. This means he gets solo time in the bot side.
Yeah, even gonna ult the wave to clear it as fast as possible. Once he gets some alone time with the tower, that's kind of the trade-off, right? Is that you TP there, you don't end up getting a kill, and you end up missing out some minions on the bot side. So it's incremental, but still FPX using their side lane presence to build up the little advantages, and of course, burning those summoners from the side of Top Esports.
The Orcs, I again come back to what we've been talking about, which is comps, which is draft the whole time. 14 minutes in, we're now moving to side lanes a lot more. And xiaolaohu is as making death rocket. Let's have a look. Oh, it stole blue. Insult
blue.
to injury, dude. Nice ult from LWX.
Man, I love moments like that. I feel like this Jinx rocket is such a fun ability in the game. There's some times where it just does so much damage. I'm like, in a team fight, it can be kind of frustrating. But when it's used to snipe, cross map, and steal things, I just find it hilarious.
I mean, at least it doesn't do 3k damage anymore when it's sent all the way.
Oh yeah, I was actually thinking that. Like, I did not enjoy that when it's like you couldn't even outsmite it. That was ridiculous.
Now it's like, okay, it's gonna do 500-600 damage if you're not careful. There's actually timing and a bit more skill into it rather than throw it out every single time they're doing an objective. Speaking of which, cross-trade objective on the map right now. It's Herald taken by the team that wants to play it into the late game. Excuse me. Top Esports, they get the dragon as a bit of respite, but this is going to be another turret going down. And honestly, Orcs, at this point, I think Top Esports already out of fuel.
Yeah, it just feels lacking, and we haven't seen anything from Tian, right? Compare this to the game one, where he's completely on point. This Volibear has felt like a teddy bear, in all honesty. No ults have come through yet, right? No dives. That's the reason you pick this champion. Lean to side, dive with the ultimate. You have that strong early ganking power. It just hasn't come to fruition. FPX going to pick up another tower, a bit more gold. 3,000 in the lead right now. And we see LWX 2 items in pocket. Look at this AD carry item difference, right? Gale Force and Berserker Greaves. And bear in mind, JackeyLove just left base, right? This isn't like he's sitting on gold. He just bought that. LWX is an entire item up, a whole rapid fire up in comparison.
Which is massive. It tells you more and more about game state, the more and more we break down with these item differences. Now, mid looks even, but I might have to pause. Gori's in the middle of this. Knight and Mark nearby. Nothing down on this bottom side apart from a turret that Top Esports chose not to take. Gori still being patient. I think FPX want to wrap on this, but now that Gori's on the bottom side wave, he'll get spotted out. And Top Esports still looking for the cheese. Steal away the red buff. Yeah, okay, Tian, you take it.
Yeah, it's a small consolation prize, right? It's not too much, but they will take that. Obviously, seeing Gori on the bot side, they know no fight's really going to come out of FPX. And this game hasn't been super fast-paced, right? It felt like game one was explosive and snowbally. I think FPX, they haven't massively pushed their advantages, but they also probably feel like they don't really need to now. We do see them leaning up a bit towards the top side, but actually Clit has stayed around bot, right? Despite the fact multiple members of Top Esports are trying to apply pressure there. And as a result, Top Esports don't want to overcommit, will just back away. And look mid, where we see the bot lane of FPX pushing up quite heavily.
Yeah. LWX and Hun can walk upwards. Tian and Mark have no angle on this as xiaolaohu comes down. And I think a lot of our audience today will be tuning into this one thinking, yeah, we're glad we're going to a game number 3 here. As on a ward cleared. Actually, this might be his undoing. The Heartbreaker over the wall. My heart's still not in pieces yet, though. And I was going to say, like, Top Esports versus FPX, like, it's a historic matchup of recent history where Top Esports went to Worlds in 2020. They kind of flopped. Let's be realistic. They sucked at 2020 Worlds in comparison to how good they were in regular season. Same with JDG, by the way. They're not clear of that. But
wow, an LPL team just underperforming a Worlds? Nah.
Well, but hang on a minute. And then being underestimated. Like, FPX were underestimated in 2019. I think IG technically, because KT Rolster existed. And everyone thought it was going to be EU's year again. And then 2021, everyone's like, oh, it's Damwon Kia. And then EDG probably could have 3-1 that series, but it went to 5 and they won anyway. I think there's a lot to be said about like the representatives of the region. And the team's changing so much dynamically. Top Esports looks similar, as thank you so much says Cleared. But FPX are a brand new team. You know, comes to my point, Orcs, that this is a new lineup by LWX. Yeah,
and it's a very changed lineup, but also, you know, you're going on the underperforming point. FPX were higher. This World's just gone compared to what we saw from the regular season. Don't be absolute monster on the roster. And then his final split, underperforms at Worlds, leaves the roster. And I think FPX, there's been a lot of positives. I think individually, I look at all of these players and I'm really hyped for them, right? I think LWX and Hung have looked great. Hung in particular has looked fantastic. xiaolaohu has looked solid. I think the thing that has been a little bit suspect is sometimes their ability to snowball games, to close them out, to set things up. And, you know, I'm not going to be too critical on this one because I feel like they can just play it safe. But it does feel like they're trying to play across multiple lanes at the same time. They're not really setting up too much, right? It's like instead of Clade aggressing on one side and just smashing through, He's trying to defend on the bot side. It does mean that top esports aren't really finding any advantages, but it does mean that FPX, it's felt like this game has slowed down a fair bit, right?
As per the condition, and that's why I'm ready to, you know, again, kind of call it if FPX aren't able to get, or top esports rather, aren't able to get anything in the next 5-10 minutes, Orcs. There's dragons that are going to be coming up that FPX feel like they're in condition to fight for. Baron in front as well. Holding vision for now means top esports can't really cheese this one away. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready to believe that this game 3 is kind of a sure thing with how the drafts are playing out. You did talk that there are some elements of scaling on top esports, some, right?
Yeah.
But you've just nailed the comp so well.
I think the hope is, so two things is one, that Jayce, if he lands some big poke on the critical members, it can make all the difference, right? Yeah. Big shock blast on the Lwx can completely change the dynamic, but also you can just blow someone up, right? Let's say Hunger's warding and Knight just one-shots him. That might be enough to make a difference. So even though I do favor FPX in the team first heavily, even though I do favor the scaling across the board, it's not completely doomed, right? But it does get harder and harder and harder. And they just haven't really been able to pick anything up for fair amount of time. It feels like FPX just grabbing the resources. And again, when you push deep into the enemy side of the map, it's not just like the fact that you force enemy team to play, you know, a lot more defensive, but you just remove access to jungle camps, right?
Sure.
And over time, that will just allow you to build up bigger and bigger CS leads. You can see, you know, there was a bit of a back and forth between junglers where originally Clid was up and then Tian overtook, and now Clid is back in favor of jungle CS. Bot lane, the gold bounty for Lwx, over 30 CS up compared to the Aphelios, still an entire item ahead and closing on that Infinity Edge.
Yeah, the Infinity Edge is going to be massive. I like the Zhonya's here as well for Gori, considering we talked about FPX's comp really buying time. And in these next couple of team fights, you know, buying time, getting the pick off that enables reset after reset. And Gori can kind of play with his time now. He's got that Zhonya's hourglass, so... Yeah, big moves here for FPX in this game number 2. If you're just tuning in now, you're wondering, man, FPX, you know, they're smashing top esports here. Remember, top esports, and again, you might have missed out, they absolutely threw this game in a pile of doo-doo. And I'm not talking about the Korean top laner. This game came from a dive where top esports flubbed it with Tian and Wayward, and Tian got hit thanks to his burn, as Mark actually caught out in the mid lane now as well. That's going to be a golden moment as Mark actually buys a bit of time himself, but he's burnt down. FPX already doing so much damage. Reset comes through on the Everfrost, and Shadow Surge up again. Gori misses the third one, but it might not matter as Hung flashes forward on command. Knight exhausted out, and his unleashed power is just not that. FPX 5 versus 3 are left, and it's only 23 minutes in the game.
Just as we feel like things are being quite slow, FPX are happy to lean up. They decide this is the moment. They've spiked hard enough. And Engage is very slow paced, right? They wait out the flash from JackeyLove. They wait out the stopwatch from Mark. They then commit. We've seen FPX throw a Baron before. Gwen is there, still the ult available.
Orcs, why did you say that? Baron for FPX has been the weakest point. There's a Jayce, a Syndra, a lot of burst, and FPX showing tempered, not aggression, but just keeping their tempers in check, I should say. So the fact
they get some flashbacks, right? The previous Barons.
Yeah,
like,
there
you know, maybe not. But I like this. So instead of just committing on the JackeyLove, they win it outright. Ult comes out for Mark. Stopwatch comes out, but the traps are down on the floor. They then just quickly burst him down. They don't massively overcommit, but then scatter the weak. That's the critical thing. This goes down. It means the FPX can just fly forwards. Nothing really to stop them. And they're able to clean up those kills. Infinity Edge now completed for Lwx. Monstrously strong. And we have the Dragon in the mid 45 from Lean on. You can see top esports going for a bit of a cheesy play, trying to fish for Gori. And actually, he just used his passive. But even with that, they're still scared to go for it. He does have the Zhonya's in pocket. And there was Hung nearby.
I'd be worried about the fear that comes through. Gori, they're going to decide not to. The whole team moving up. Hung actually spotted in River as well. And it's a good time for us to talk about vision, because with comps that look for resets, that look for the range that Gori can play through, I think vision a very important part of the game, especially as well, since we were just looking at the Baron. Now, vision right now kind of contested around that pit off.
Yeah, and I feel like one of my biggest issues with FPX when I talk about the Baron is a lot of teams will set up really deep vision, right? and then it makes it very hard for the enemies to contest the Baron. They have to walk through so much fog of war. It's so risky. You can easily have things like the Vex engage onto you and be a massive threat. I feel like that's where FPX has been lacking the most. Now, obviously right now, the focus may well be on the bot side of the map for the Dragon, but even so, you rarely see them getting that deep vision, sweeping out the enemy's vision and making it a threatening objective to approach. And that's why I feel like they tend to struggle to close out games, right? I think it's one of their big issues that restricts them.
And I think, you know, that's kind of what makes a top-tier team in the end. Like, mid-game has often been our mid-tier team's weakest point. I point towards... What's a good example of this? I was going to say, like, Rare Adam from last split was a really good example. Spooning at points as well. Dredge line. Ignore me. Top Esports with the setup. Oh my god, they got xiaolaohu. Mark's out of there as well, and Clid can't get a reset for now. We need to see FPX find at least one Mark, and oh hi, there's a Mark. Dredge line backs in, about to die, but the ulti better from JackeyLove. Top Esports winning a fight now, but Hung goes in once again to secure. No reset given as Clid is dead. xiaolaohu's dead. Wayward almost poking down the bottom lane. Top Esports have no right to win a fight, Orcs, but they somehow did.
They found a big pick at the start, and that's the thing with this team composition, definitely capable of doing that again. FPX, a little bit lazy, don't have the deep vision, right? They just wander in a few seconds before the Dragon, they get picked, end up losing out on it, and this really shouldn't be happening when they have this much of a lead. FPX get punished there, and in all, they don't trade down too heavily, but this far ahead, it is pretty weak. Now, you see, they push in mid, they have some walls behind, so they don't really wait for anyone to show mid. They honestly could have just pushed mid. If they were setting up vision earlier, they could have just pushed up mid. It would have forced Top Esports to respond. Because they left it so late, they have to kind of force in, and they end up heading towards this choke. Such a bad spot to be fighting against this team with the Syndra. The long range snipe from the Calibrum from JackeyLove, just able to finish off the Viego. And again, it's still 5,000 gold lead for FPX, but Soul will be delayed with Top Esports getting that second Dragon.
That's right, and we've kind of seen how this operates in the mid game. FPX aren't at that full scaling point yet, and if they get picked out, you raise a really good point in the early game that Wayward's Jayce, if he hits the right target, could be absolutely huge. Now on top of Gori, is he the right target? Dodging around, he's used the phase rush already. Clid is off on this side. And Gori's trying to bait him in. Shock Blast goes down, but remember, there's a control ward there, spotting him out while the rest of Top Esports are at this top side.
Like, this is a great example of, okay, while Clid is on the bot side, Hung heads over towards the top side, and he places a bunch of wards down. Top Esports, knowing that, like, there's pressure on the bot side of the map, they literally just sweep all the wards out, apply their own vision, and now look how strong Top Esports look, right? Look how much pressure they have. They're 5,000 gold behind, right? Yeah. FPX just need to group up, right? Group up their jungle, their support, and then maybe their AD carry, right? Push mid, rotate through, establish vision, get control. But they just seem so split, so divided. And as a result, all Top Esports have to do is put a few members together. It allows them control. You even see Wayward able to pick up this tower on the bot side. It's really disappointing because the individual play has been good for FPX. And now finally, right, this is what we need, yeah? Group up the members together, move as a unit.
And FPX doing that, I was just kind of focusing on the fact that there was no objective bounty. Kind of surprised. What do you know what objective bounty starts at? Ignore me. Ignore me. Because Mark's going to get caught out. Clid found it. Ignore me completely. Dredge line out. Mark's gone. FPX grouped up as you wanted to see. Orcs. My questions can wait for now because FPX still hovering around Baron, but it feels like they're backing off. Try to rely on xiaolaohu to get a tier 2.
Yeah, and I think you can use this pressure from xiaolaohu, like push his wave in, rotate over towards mid. You know, someone has to answer, use that presence to try and get that deeper vision. But again, time and time again, they really struggle to do so. I feel like shallow vision is kind of the hallmark of this FPX roster. Regarding your objective bounty question, it's hard to actually really know. It's kind of like a weird one. We don't know the exact numbers for it. It's like there's multiple factors, right? How many towers you've taken, how many dragons you've taken. So the fact there wasn't one is probably down to the 2 dragons that they have. Like, I think if it was 4 dragons to 0, there may well have been a bounty, but I don't think there's like actual explicit stats as to this gives you this bounty and etc. I mean, it's the same with like when you see champion bounties and there'll be an AD carry is like 60 CS down and doesn't have a kill and they still have a bounty. It eludes us.
Yeah, there's some things in the game that I always find perplexing. to say the least. In this game, Orcs, we have been kind of thrown through a loop, though, because we're at a 4K gold deficit only for top esports. Before, it was 6.5 at least. So at this point, I'm more inclined to believe that TES are not forgotten in this scenario. They've got a dragon coming up in a minute. There's Baron that's now spawned, and Wayward is just trying to split out of his mind. Draw xiaolaohu down here, remembering they both have teleport.
Yeah, and they're 3 items apiece, right? As much as we said FPX have strong scaling tools, they had a massive lead early. It's a lot less significant now. And I feel like even though I favor FPX in the late stage, it's not enough to be like, you know, playing this passive isn't really going to favor them. It just means top esports have more of an opportunity to close the gap.
Yeah.
It's still an item lead for Lwx, but a 1-item lead when it's 2 items versus 1 is massive. 1-item lead when it's 4 against 3, not so much.
I also think, though, it is important to note that a GA has been picked up by Lwx, so that item is still going to make a hell of a lot of annoyance from top esports in the fight. As he moves into River with his 4 items, with a 3-item Vex alongside him. Gori is a big deal right now with the Shadow Flame as well. Shadow Flame, Shadow Surge, get ready for it. As top esports move towards Baron, it's Dragon Soul Point that's spawning, and FPX want to take it.
Yeah, and you see critically, JackeyLove didn't have his Infinity Edge, was actually trying to recall for it, forced to stop. He now has it, but they just really didn't see the window to take that fight. So FPX get the dragon. It's never nice to let the enemy team get to 3 dragons. It's always painful. It puts you on a knife's edge. The Infernal Soul would be scary, right? The extra burst damage available to get those resets. But I think top esports make the right call. They don't have vision in the area. They didn't have the Infinity Edge complete. JackeyLove live to fight another day.
Okay, well, slower game, folks. You're not used to it in the LPL, and especially with the dominance we saw in game number 1. FPX and top esports are putting you through a ringer as well, but we're A-ramming, we're grouping up. Knight wants to pick through the wall. Something similar he did to JDG, but it was towards Dragon side. He found Hung, ulti through for JackeyLove, but he just grand entrance out of there. That was so easy for Hung, and I guess top esports thought the stun would last longer, but he's got Mercury Treads, and I think that just saved his life.
Yeah, Mercury Treads and probably unflinching as well. Also, it's not like Knight can just flash over and ult him because he has Merc Treads, there's a Negatron, he also has the Locket. Probably Aki wouldn't be able to 100 his Zerum if he just popped the R there. So, do you see them trying to apply that pressure? It gives a bit of a room for FPX. They crash this wave in top and will get this top lane tier 2. And now, this is a bit deeper. You can sweep out some of this vision, apply more pressure. There is still that brush next to the Raptors where top esports are stacking. Definitely more control, though, in this situation, and they can fish for something. Wayward on the other side, though, applying pressure, pushing in the side lane. They need to force his TP, so they will start the Baron.
I mean, Baron's going to go down quick as well. Remember, it's a Gwen with true damage. Tian's over the wall. They want a 50-50. Just wait. FPX don't do it. Tian's over, but not stolen. FPX this time around, they flip the burger, and it lands on the right side.
This is just such an FPX. It's like, it gets to the point where they realize the game's slipping out of their hands. Let's flip Baron. Okay, they win the flip. Cool. They're probably in a good spot to win the game. They don't win the flip. Probably doomed. It's just like, ah, man. Such a wild way to decide a game of League of Legends, right? But why not? Why not just coin flip it?
They do it all the time.
It's just insane that every single time as well. It's not like one of these things where sometimes you see like a slow approach with an enemy team.
Oh, hang on. Wayward actually just dead. Just snipped to death. And late game Gwen, we've achieved that point. FPX off of 1 Baron. Now suddenly the trigger's pulled. It's helping completely skyrocket the game speed.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they needed, right? It took them so long to get it, and it came to a conflict, but actually cleared.
Yeah, he goes golden, though, and not going to get the stun from Tian. Waiting for Scatter the Weak. He ulties out of there. Now that the Heartbreak is down, FPX have to be a little bit more careful. But having said that, straight up towards the topside turret and the inhibitor. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been lolling about in bed for a little bit. Now FPX are like, we are woke, and we are going to end the game, trying to move it to a 3-game series. The top esports have 1 Nexus turret left. JackeyLove with the ulti as well. Post summon is available. Watch out for the burst that comes through as Knight gets tagged on this Syndra. Lwx sets out the trap, still has GA to play with as Nexus now exposed. All in for it as well. It's going to get hit down by the FPX members of Moonlight Vigil. Doing the work though. FPX playing dangerous. Gori trying to hit it. It goes down. That game ended in about a minute from the Baron.
I just found it hilarious how quickly they end the game once they get the Baron, and how long they struggle to wrap their heads around securing it until they eventually went, you know what, let's just flip it. And I feel like, as you know, They have to be confident in Clid's smiting ability. It did pay off there, but man,